of the City Council of the City of Bandera, Tuesday, December the 10th, 2019 at 5:30. All council members are present, city admin, city secretary are present. There are members of the EDC present. Okay, item 2, discussion of possible action on the following items. Receive and review a report regarding the Bandera Economic Development Corporation's comprehensive financial position, outstanding commitments, and daily operations. I quite frankly don't have anything to give to you that didn't come, you haven't already received, and I'd asked Diana if she could provide these things, and Diana, what was your response?
I was instructed by the EDC president not to enter into any discussions or answer any questions regarding the EDC matters. And while I don't agree with that, I must comply.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to ask Deanna anything?
Yes. Well, I mean, okay, so I don't know why I'm being asked if I want to ask Deanna anything.
Well, you
if
look like you
Deanna-
had a question. You don't have to ask her anything.
Well, but if Deanna's been instructed not to engage, my question, is that under the advice of your attorney or?
President, EDC president.
Okay. Was there anything specific that was asked for that was not reasonable for you to be able to provide to
There was
council? It was not reasonable?
There was nothing asked
Okay.
for that was not reasonably.
Okay. And of what was requested, what specifically do we not have? Because we were provided with
Okay.
the 18-19 budget
Thank you.
and the 19-20
Okay.
budget, which has been
Let me
approved. So
start
beyond
with-
that.
Let me start at the beginning, because the original purpose of this meeting tonight was to give council an overall financial review of the EDC before we go into a workshop, so that we have some sort of knowledge of the workings of EDC prior to going to a workshop, because there's no point in us spending time getting familiar with what we should already know, you know, like the financials, how the process works going from application through the final check in the whole 9 yards. So,
Yeah, I would like to find, all right, what is it that's new that we're supposed to find out? I mean, we approved the budget, we approved their expenditures, and, you know, no one's ever objected to anything, so, and I don't think it's right for us to be asking Deanna questions if she was instructed not to.
well, we're not gonna ask Deanna any more questions. Glenn, she can just sit there.
Yeah, I think we have enough counsel on the side approaching members of EDC to try to get information for whatever reason. So, you know, I just never understood why when people have a problem with something, they don't bring it to this table where we can discuss it. Everybody wants to go to the back door. You know, if you want me to talk about things that I know happen and that you know happen, a couple other people here, we can discuss it, but it's starting to feel like when I first got on this council, you know, when everybody wanted to do everything behind closed doors. And like I say, I don't even see what we can gain by this. I mean, the EDC has records here. We have copies of their budget, right? There's a file here at City Hall that has this stuff in it.
Well, we don't have any of the financial records here. We have records of our,
You don't have any financial records of the EDC.
we have the budget, yes, but we don't have, you know, we haven't seen this comprehensive spreadsheet that Deanna's kept up with over the years. The last time I think we saw it was like in April. I just asked for an update. Again, it was to receive and review the report regarding the Bandera.
Okay.
No,
And we've had this discussion before too, where we had Neffendorf go and investigate to make sure everything was on the up and up. this was last year, so we're gonna do this every year now to make sure everything's on the up and up. I mean, everything that the EDC does comes before us and we approve it. We have a chance to vote it up, vote it down. We can go to their meetings, we hear something we don't like, we can bring it to this table and we can try to fix it.
Nevendorf was not asked to investigate. Nevendorf
Now, what
was
is-
asked.
I've got a copy of the
I'm
email.
responding, Glenn, I'm responding. They were asked a simple question. The EDC budget that we received was well over their money. They didn't have the money because they had sold off some property. They were
The way it
They
was,
were under the impression that they could budget whatever, you know, a wish list. If we had the money, we could do this, but they don't. They've got to budget for the amount, and that was my question. It wasn't an investigation, it was a question.
I have a copy of the email that was sent, and it said they were spending significantly more than the previous year. We wanna make sure everything's on the up and up. So, stated that way, we think something's going on here.
I didn't use the words up and up, that came from Jay.
I know where it came from. I know who sent it to Neffendorf.
That's really not the subject of what we're doing tonight, but if you want us to get all the emails out, we can. It's just that a comprehensive review is not, here's the budget. A comprehensive review includes a balance sheet, which they say they provided a balance sheet. A true balance sheet reflects both the assets and the liabilities of the corporation, long-term, short-term. Well, what we got is a balance sheet right here, simply states their money left. It doesn't even list all of their assets. So I was asking for a balance sheet. It's not a difficult thing to produce. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to just back up a little bit and talk to, there are more of you, some of you here from the EDC that were not here the night that we last met last Thursday, and what inspired this meeting to happen tonight. And I know that it's being perceived as hostile, and that's unfortunate. While some people might be behaving hostilely towards each other for various reasons, when we began to learn about the MDD and we had this initial meeting, we were advised to, before we go into workshop with the EDC and moving forward in what we wanted to request of them, that we have a really clear idea of what's going on currently and what's left outstanding, what's really hanging out back there. I think that through the mayor looking into some of that, I understand there might be the perception that some files that might ought to be here at City Hall are currently not here at City Hall. But that's for us to work together with cleaning up, in my opinion. The fact that we were asking for a clear picture, and it's something that Deanna has readily available to pass along, I don't think should be whatever power struggle arose out of that really shouldn't be the focus of what we're here to do tonight, because what we want to do is have the opportunity to, in the future, shortly in the future, work with the EDC and be able to request certain things from the EDC. And I don't mind speaking first on kind of what I'm thinking based on this financial review and the intention of the meeting tonight, if that is acceptable for you.
Okay. Did you want to make an opening statement of sorts, or did you want to make a general statement, or?
Well, I'd like to make a general statement because I did have my hand up earlier before Rebecca. But back in April, I requested from Deanna with an open records request, so it was done legally, for all of the approved performance agreements so far done by the EDC, and then also the Bandera Economic Development Corporation expenditures by vendor summary. And she was able to produce that for me. And so that's really kind of what I was looking for tonight, was to see a whole layout of where the money went, how much money has been spent, how much each business or individual received, how much we are still owing to whoever. Right now, it looks like the EDC, and it did come before the council as well, Glenn, and I approved this as well, but we did approve $205,000 to the JW Development for the Tractor Supply property. And so what we're gonna be, what we're into now by contract is to pay $41,000 a year to that developer for the next 5 years.
But we agreed to it.
I know we agreed to it, but I don't think that that money should have been spent that way.
But we can't unspend it.
I know we can't unspend it.
That's not the point of
But that is one of my concerns, is the way that some of this money has been spent. And I would like to get, Jay has been working, I know, with the EDC board to become stricter about giving out funds, but it seems to me that they're still giving out funds, and they're not abiding by guidelines. Guidelines are being changed for certain individuals. If certain individuals come before the board and request money, they're either denied or approved, and not thoroughly based on the sales tax that they're bringing in. And so, to me, if the EDC wants to help every business in town, then let's just give everybody $10,000 that owns a business. They're all generating sales tax. They're all hiring local people to work in the businesses. Why not just go across the board and get everybody $10,000? So I do not agree with the way that the funds are being used right now.
Rebecca?
I'd like to respond to two things specifically. One is the infrastructure grant that was awarded to Tractor Supply Company. I don't know if you're missing the fact that they had to be tied into our sewer. That was an obligation. We gave them the money to do that, and it is likely, we were told that if we had done it ourselves, we would have spent more money on that project. And when the project is complete, they're deeding it over to the city. Jay, am I speaking?
Yes.
We only paid them to provide us with our own property, and we would have most likely have spent more money to do that project. And I'm not quite finished with the floor. If you have a problem with the way that the funds are being spent, I can understand and suggest that in moving forward, we sit down with the EDC, review, update, evaluate the benefit of the programs that are in place that were approved by council. They're not doing anything outside of their purview. And when you say specific guidelines are being changed, that's a hefty accusation that I would like to see documentation for before I made any assumptions.
Hang on, ma'am. Go ahead, Jerry.
I have concerns with the way the money's been handed out to pay for a business's infrastructure. Facades are okay, but funds being used for infrastructure such as buying equipment, those type of things, I didn't approve any of those previous fundings because I was not here. But any of them that come up before me, I'm going to have great resistance to a lot of it. That's has always been my viewpoint on that. I do think there's been a lot of resistance to the council when requesting information. I don't think a council member should ever have to ask or submit a open records request for pretty much anything. So that's how I feel about it.
Bryce?
So from my understanding, when the city attorney this last meeting sat down, this whole thing, to your point earlier, was to establish the advantages, which seems significant, in establishing an MDD over EDC, which is why we needed to know the financials, which is why it's been asked for. Then according to these emails, there's been some hostility in that piece, so that's a whole other subject, but that was the reason for this originally. So at some point, I'd like to get back to that. I know in the last year and a half, 2 years since I've been involved here, the EDC has changed the way they go about establishing who gets money and whatnot. They're taking their time between one meeting versus the next month and going and really getting to know the projects and whatnot. There's been significant strides and the way that they're awarding those funds, which is pretty awesome, the way that they've been doing that. I still have questions, of course, on some things, but I've not brought them up to anyone to have them shot down. But at some point, I would like to be able to speak to whomever has made some of these deals in the past and figure out why some things are the way they are. But if I'm not allowed to speak to Deanna about that, then I'm not sure if that's to be addressed to workshop, which we can't do without the financials either, unless we're just gonna take that information right away. So, again, the whole reason we're doing this. So, I'd like to see this part taken care of and figure out why there's hostility and something that we're all trying to do to work together and find out if we can make a significant difference with the MDD or the EDC. And maybe we can. Maybe EDC is the most proper vehicle.
I particularly agree with Rebecca and Bryce too, and all of you, that we need to have some sort of workshop soon, but as far as changing their policies, in their unapproved minutes from last week, or last month, I'm sorry, Tom stated he would like to get a clarification on the building improvement and asked if EDC was limited to approving at $10,000. Tony replied, yes, it's a matching grant. Crawford stated that the EDC is not limited to anything, they could vote to change the 10,000 cap at any given time, and Tony stated as per EDC guide, if it's under building improvement, there is a $10,000 cap. If it's under performance agreement, to make it a multi-year, it gives the EDC free rein to do whatever they want to do to assist. So, you know, there was discussion of making some changes, and that's fine, changes are good, as long as we all know what the changes are. In my opinion, if the final in line is what we established in our workshop, you start here and you end here, and you get here, we have everything we want, then so be it. But these are things that I think we need to consider. If I may, Andrea, you're an officer of the EDC, are you?
Yes, ma'am.
You are the
Secretary.
Are you aware of the documents that we're requesting?
Point of order. We have a quorum of EDC members?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do.
We
No,
were
there's only-
instructed.
There's only 3, we're not a quorum.
There are only 3.
Oh, excuse me.
There's a 7-member panel.
We were instructed by an attorney to ask specific questions, and our attorney encouraged EDC members to come to this meeting, so.
Yeah, again, my question, are you aware of these things that we're trying to, these financial documents we're trying to obtain? Thank you.
Recently, and yes, I'm not sure I understand why there's an issue in providing them. I mean, it's open records. It should be available, from what I understand. So,
Okay.
I'm,
Or I would ask you the same question, because you've been on EDC so much longer than anybody else. Are you aware of the documents that we're requesting?
I am aware of the documents you're requesting, but to be honest, I'm just kind of here as a citizen tonight because one of the statements you just made was that the attorney encouraged the EDC and you all to ask EDC members questions. I just found out about this meeting late yesterday afternoon. I got no email, so I didn't know anything about any of this until late this afternoon, or late yesterday afternoon. So I'm not prepared with
Okay.
any, but yes, I saw the email chain later, and I realized what you're asking for. And I think it was more of a time-sensitive issue than, I don't know. I'm not involved, I'm not.
Okay, I'm just saying if you're aware of the documents, that was the only
I'm
question.
aware of the documents.
Okay. Rebecca, did you have any other questions? Statements?
Possibly. I would appreciate it if, according to the city records that you're talking about, if we could identify specifically what we're missing, figure out if those if the EDC is required by policy to provide those documents. And if not, is there something in the procedures that we need to adjust? Simple. And that's kind of only one point here. And that's only gonna help us put together the pieces for the bigger picture, which is what we hope to come together and be able to collaborate on and work together about is the MDD. And in the meantime, I think more specifically, where do we all see the EDC going from here? And if we need to revisit and evaluate the incentive programs, can we have the opportunity to do that? The city might possibly even like to request for some specific project upcoming. I know that I wasn't aware that we were gonna be sending out RFPs for a master plan revamp, which is something that historically the EDC has financially supported in the past, and it also informs all of our decisions from both boards. So I think there's just maybe a little like kind of sense of like, hey, let's pump the brakes here a little bit and check on things together
Okay,
peacefully.
Lynn?
I think that to the answer to Rebecca's question, it's in the bylaws that the oversight by the city council section right here. It says that per local government code 501, the Bandera City Council will approve all programs and expenditures of the BEDC. The BEDC is responsible
done
to the city council.
We have done that.
Okay, so it's in the bylaws.
We don't
that
approve them
we-
on an individual basis, we approve the whole
No,
incentive program.
I'm sorry, I
Right.
misread the portion that I wanted to read.
Oh.
That the EDC is responsible to the city council, and they are to approve, they are to provide any kind of information that we request of them at any time.
That doesn't necessarily mean they have it in that moment.
But Deanna has already said that she has it.
Okay,
That could be the case, but there have been other situations where the council has asked for things that
But
were
we're
not
talking
readily
about tonight.
available.
We're talking about for this meeting.
Talking
Lynn?
about procedure.
Well, I think all of us agree that we all want to work together and, you know, make this work the way it's supposed to. But to quote what our attorney told us, you know, he said, I sat in the workshop, the last workshop y'all had, and the EDC members asked, what do y'all want us to do? What do you want from us? And no one said anything. So if we have ideas how we want this money spent, that's what the workshops are supposed to be about. So why not get it out there? Like I said, get it on the table and let's talk about it. Decide what the majority of this council wants to do, and that's the way we instruct the EDC. Not trying to manipulate it, you know, by other means.
But that's not gonna happen if Deanna is instructed not to cooperate with us. So,
Again, may I respond?
well, that's not the level of communication and symbiotic relationships that we're looking for here, and she's got the data right then and there.
Again, like Art said, there's a matter of timeline, you know.
may I
She's been
respond to that?
instructed not to, I mean, that's
That's not a timeline.
not a timeline thing, that's a lack of cooperation. So what do we need to do to bridge that? Is that a particular person, is that procedures back there? I don't know, but we need to figure that out, because this relationship's not gonna go anywhere if that's the way the stance is gonna be taken.
Okay,
If you're gonna let individual council members go to the EDC's secretary and get information, it's not gonna work like that either.
But wait,
Wait a second.
That's
But,
different.
wait a minute, let's back up here a minute. Talk about the timeline. I called Deanna on Friday morning as a courtesy call to ask her, would she be available on Tuesday? And could we have all of these documents? It'll be in the first email.
Did you call the president of the EDC?
Hmm?
Did you call the president of the EDC?
No, I called Deanna, she's the keeper of the records.
There you go.
That
The
is
protocol.
totally
Well,
subjective.
your EDC
Yeah.
president is copying Jerry on all these emails. You wanna talk about protocol? Are you being included in the string of emails, Jerry?
Yes, I am. I'd like to make a comment about that. Comments about changing the rules whenever they want. That's a huge concern for me. I don't like a lot of these arrangements, but it was voted for. The things are already in place. But anytime I see resistance when somebody's being asked a question That's a basic part of their job. It pretty much all should be open to the public. Why should we have to go through some involved procedure? And why can we not talk to Deanna directly? Because that is our concern, and we should have direct access to anything we ask for, anything.
Art would like to
Because
comment.
we are the
Did not
actual
both of the-
managers of that.
You weren't present when we had the last workshop, but both the EDC and our attorney both said that was not proper etiquette. Not
That's-
illegal,
I didn't hear that.
not, well,
I don't believe that's true. I don't believe it's illegal
Yes.
for us. I don't think that we're required
I
to
didn't
do
say
an
it
open
was
records
illegal. They
request.
said it was
We should not be
unethical.
required to do an open records request, and that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, all right, guys, let's calm it down. Art, do you have something to say?
If I may, so to start with Rebecca's question earlier about what do you, when we have that you don't have, I don't know the answer to that. I was thinking that all files have been moved here. I don't know. But what procedures do you need to go through to get those? It is plain, both attorneys told us in our last workshop that you all have access to all records that we have, period. End of
Exactly.
discussion. However, we did also talk about, because when I was president, one of the biggest irritants to me was that you all would want something, but instead of letting me know you wanted it, you went to our secretary. And we discussed that in the workshop. And while the attorneys both said there's nothing illegal about you all doing that Deanna works for this board of directors. And when she starts getting instructions from someone else and billing us for that was not proper protocol, that you all were to ask the president, and the president or the board would direct her to give it to you. So it's just semantics, it's this or that, this or that. Is it cause for people to get irate about? You know, I don't know what the answer to that. I'm just telling you that's what the attorneys both said in the meeting. So if I were still president and you all decided to have a meeting and you started talking to our secretary before you even let me or anyone else on the board know you were having a meeting, yeah, I would be upset about that. Because that's one of the things that got us to the point where we were when I was president earlier, that I thought we had resolved all of that when we had our last workshop. But you all have the right to ask for anything you want, because we work for you, and it's all your information when it comes right down to it. And it should all be here, and hopefully it's going in that direction.
You know, I emailed Tony the first time after I'd spoken to Diana, simply to establish, yes, she would be available, and yes, she has the documents that we would need. Okay, so at 1 o'clock, on Friday afternoon, I email Tony to tell her, you know, well, it's good morning, it's good afternoon by this time. Please provide this and this, da-da-da-da-da. Spoke with Deanna, and she's assured me she could have it available soon. The meeting will be on Tuesday. Well, she was not real happy with that. But she doesn't reply to me until Saturday, December the 7th. We had to post by 5 o'clock that afternoon. So in expediency's sake, I simply checked with Deanna to see if she was available. I didn't ask for anything specific. I said, you know, have you got the financials available? And she said yes. The end of conversation. However, if Tony's gonna include Jerry, I think we need to discuss that even further, but not tonight. This is not a subject for tonight. But that's why I made that phone call. For me to call Tony and say, hey, do you think Deanna can be ready on, by Tuesday? What's the point? Yes, ma'am.
Is the city authorized to pay Deanna directly for work that we request of
Yes,
her?
we have.
And in that case, there should be no need to go through the EDC president, correct?
And just to be clear, when I requested this information from Deanna, I was advised to make it as an open records request, because I did send her an email and request this information because it was not at City Hall at the time, and she advised that I make an open records request for the information on it.
Well, Tony was also under the I think, misconception that we had all this stuff in City Hall. Because she kept responding, you have it, you have it, you have it, but we don't. And the more I tried to explain, the more she insisted that we had it, you know. And so my last email to her this afternoon was to provide the project spreadsheet that Diana has called the EDC projects, all open applications, all open and pending contracts, including applications, a true balance sheet reflecting the assets versus liabilities of a corporation, and a profit and loss statement as of September 30th, 2019. As Deanna said on Friday, she has all this available in digital format. Their attorney, your Mighty Acres, responded to me and said, well said, I hope it's well received. He's in on this too, so, you know, he's, again, but that's not what this meeting is about. This meeting is about getting these financials. And the fact that we haven't, then I guess we don't need to have this meeting. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that I support the incentive programs that allow businesses to come to the EDC and receive funds for the facades that are happening up and down, or had happened up and down Main Street. That's part of our master plan to get Main Street to be looking a certain western way. And so I had no problem supporting the facade agreements or incentives. I have a problem when we start purchasing equipment, like Jerry said, and you know, this in the past meeting, we gave somebody a pass on paying back some of that money, just because, I don't know why. I mean, that's not their money to give a pass to, it's public funds, really. And then the equipment that was supposed to be there, there's not somebody there to follow through on all of these agreements, to make sure that everybody has hired a certain amount of business, a certain amount of employees per year, that they're generating a certain amount of sales tax per year. You would have to hire one individual to follow through on all of these programs. And we don't have that person. I guess we could get our city administrator to do it, because he's supposed to be like a head of, you know, a representative of the city council, but I think he's got enough on his plate. So I have a concern about following through and making sure that all the guidelines are being met.
Well, you know, it would, one second, let me respond to her, and I'll recognize you. It would be possible for a change in the bylaws that we could make the admin assistant a city employee and pay her as a city employee. She's already a contract employee anyway, to follow through with all of this EDC stuff, if she was willing. But that's, you know, yes, there are several things we need to do, but can't fix the world tonight. Let me, go ahead, Bryce.
Okay, so it sounds like that's another topic from what the agenda item is tonight.
That's correct.
So, getting back to that, what we need to do is figure out the whole reason for this, again, was we need to have a workshop. We need to know what's going on, we need the data to do that. We need the ability to have an open door to get that data, and as I understand it, Deanna, you have access to all of this. Shouldn't be too hard to put that together. We've got other members of the EDC not understanding why that information's not divulged either. So to that point, I'd like to figure out what is it gonna take to get an open door. I mean, the person who's resisting this isn't even here tonight, so that's kind of disappointing as well. But what can we do to fix this? That's a subjective question, I guess, but we need to get back on track and figure this out, because we need to have this meeting, the workshop.
Lynn?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to remove all directors from the EDC board effective immediately.
I'll second that.
Okay. Second by Jerry. Discussion, council? Rebecca?
I think that's a completely inappropriate motion. I think it's mean-spirited and very personal. I don't think
not
it
personal
follows.
at all.
You're not on the floor, ma'am. I don't think it adheres to anything that the council has discussed. I think that we need to lay out a plan and moving forward. I think I've spoken to some of those points tonight. And I'm not interested in being tyrannical or contributing to a negative culture in this city. So I think that's a bad deal.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's contributing to a bad culture to the city. I think it's looking at the EDC as a business and how they are conducting business. And for me, as a city council, as a representative of the citizens of Bandera, I feel like that I should be able to come forward, which I haven't been able to come forward and express my opinion on how I think that the money is not being used well in the EDC.
Bryce had his hand up first. Bryce?
So again, the purpose of this workshop is to be able to sit down with the EDC and ask why some of the decisions are being made, where the money's going, have accountability. We can't even give them a chance to do that. And of course, there's been a roadblock with the president asking Deanna not to speak, but we need to work for that. I mean, the whole purpose is to sit down and come to some sort of solution, right? And we don't even know what the heck's going on, so how can we punish and just disband things when we don't know what's going on? I'd like to sit down and have that meeting, find out why we're not getting cooperation, and go from there. If we continue and we don't get cooperation, then I think that's another story, but this is kind of knee-jerk.
Jerry?
If we ask questions of the EDC members and we get resistance, that is a huge concern for me. I feel I've lost confidence. If I can't, if I see that people are showing me resistance for questions that should be answered openly, I have more questions.
Bryce?
It's happened once that
Are
we're
you
not.
skipping me on purpose? Or do I need to
Oh,
hold my
I'm
hand up the
sorry.
whole time?
I didn't even see your hand come up again, Rebecca. Go ahead,
No.
Rebecca. Excuse me.
Okay. Back to Lynn's response. To say that she does not approve of the programs that the EDC is running, when she herself approved the programs that are running, every funding is happening according to the bylaws and incentives that you as a council member voted for. So it's just as logical for you to remove yourself if they're not doing it right, because you put everything about it in place. And Jerry, I would just say that to your comment that it is specifically one person that has been the roadblock. It's not the entire board that's been a roadblock. The doors of communication are open, and any council member can show up to EDC and speak. And workshops are planning on being held and have been held in the past. And it's intended to be a cooperative effort.
Due to the comments through the email from the president, I don't feel that's the case.
What?
When
You don't feel what's the case?
that there's cooperation.
Oh, I said intended.
Well, however you'd like to put it, but I think it was very clear there wasn't going to be cooperation.
From a whole board? That was your perception from the
No,
email?
no, I didn't
Okay.
have communication with the rest of them. But if you can't go to the president and get what you need, what makes you think you're going to have any better cooperation from the rest of them?
Oh, come on, Jerry. You never asked me for anything,
Is that
so
okay?
why
all
are
right,
you saying
all
that?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
You never called me.
Stop. No communication, guys. That's totally. Lynn had his hand up.
Wow.
I would like for each member of this council to think about the oath of office that they took. And in that oath, it says that you will uphold all laws, national, state, and local laws. Can each one of you, as you've been a member on this board, have you been able to do that? Have you kept your oath of office?
Are you questioning?
No, I'm just
I'd
asking you
like
to
to,
ask
please.
yourself that.
Excuse me.
Call to order.
Absolutely.
Call to order.
That's totally off subject.
Call to
We're discussing.
Really?
I'm sorry, but I think this motion on the floor is totally out of order.
That's fine.
Well, the motion is well within the scope, but
Mayor?
it's not.
I don't want to get real deep into this because you know as well as I do, it'll get real nasty. You and I have had conversations and stuff. The press is here and I don't want it to get out there what all has gone on over the years. So do we have the information that we need? If we do, then let's get on with the agenda item.
Jerry?
I would say if you're withholding something that should have been brought out before now, I would question myself at that point. I know that I'm loyal to the oath that I took, but that doesn't appear to be. If you're not willing to stand up and speak out,
No, I just said
why
everyone should ask themselves.
What are you withholding?
I'm not withholding anything.
I'm asking, you said
Call to
that.
order,
Okay, come on,
please.
guys.
I'm just
Call to
asking.
order.
Get back on track.
On the
here.
question.
It's calling for a vote.
Further discussion? All right. All in favor? Jerry and Lynn are in favor. All opposed? Glenn, Rebecca, Bryce are opposed, so the motion fails. Jerry?
I'd like to make a motion to place a moratorium of 180 days on any future spending by EDC.
I second.
So discussion? So you said future spending?
Correct.
Okay, so everything that's already been approved, we're gonna go ahead
We're committed to that.
and get that, okay.
We have
Right.
to be committed to that.
180 days,
Correct.
that's 6 months,
That's correct.
that we're gonna shut down the branch that is helping to stimulate the economy and develop the economy. 6 month flat, whatever, no, unless this happens or whatever, I mean, that's kind of a blanket thing to throw out there. And I think it's gonna have repercussions that go against the very reason why we put an EDC in place.
What's the emergencies that are out
I'm
there?
gonna say there are emergencies, but we have an economy to develop, we've got reason to spend money.
Maybe we can,
One person
Maybe
at
we-
a time, Mayor.
maybe we can resolve this in less than 180 days. But I think that gives us a good amount of time to be able to handle it, take care of it. And I would hope that it would take us much less than 180 days. But if we continue to get resistance on information that we've requested, that may make it very difficult to even meet the 180 days.
So why don't we motion against that, because putting a tourniquet on a cut right now is not gonna solve the problem. It's clear that we have a communication problem that needs to be addressed, and it sounds like almost everybody else is willing to work with us and communicate with us, so why don't we try and find a way to make that work rather than shutting down the whole program for this? I don't know.
Rebecca?
I would like to respectfully ask Jerry to consider amending your motion to a shorter time frame. Specifically, what comes to mind is if the city is going to request that municipal development district be placed on the May ballot, the deadline is in February. If we could maybe just have until February to iron this stuff out, conduct workshops with the EDC, with the public on what that kind of transition would involve and what the impact would be. I do believe it might also provide us some time to really evaluate the current incentive programs, because those are programs that we could potentially keep on an MDD. And I don't mean to go on and on, but please consider maybe until the end of February. So like a 2.5 month or what have you.
60 days?
Sure.
Could I ask you to amend it further to make one exception that they're having their special meeting, regular meeting on
It would go
Thursday?
into effect immediately.
And they're going to be addressing the request for the promotional funds. I would like to see those go forward. Those are the funds that actually get this city rolling and help promote our events. So if you could amend your motion to perhaps 60 days and allow EDC
With
to
an exception.
distribute
of
account
the
number
promotion.
for, what is it?
60 days, does that allow enough time?
To keep the latest start date, because their meeting's Thursday.
Yeah.
That is not what's
60
being
days.
asked,
Well, we're talking about amendments.
right? But that's not what was suggested. Just to have an exception that the promotional funds for this fiscal year, those are on a payout basis anyway. Or any of those programs,
That's true.
some of them might be happening before February. I would just leave it as a blanket exception on promotional spending. What is that
So
account
if we
line item?
allow the promotional spending 60 days on new spending. They can continue to meet, they continue to,
45,000.
we can have
is
those
the line
workshops in the
item.
meantime. So would you restate your amended motion, please?
Yeah, I'd like to amend my motion to place a moratorium of 60 days with the exception of the spending for
It's right here, Jerry.
the promotional advertising,
Sorry.
And that is
promotional
on-
marketing.
On new programs, existing
new
programs will be
programs.
funded. Okay. Everybody understand the motion, are we clear?
Can you repeat that motion, please?
I could,
Would you
right?
like?
I would like to amend that motion, place a moratorium for 60 days with the exception of future spending, with the exception of promotional and marketing advertising.
A second.
Okay, so we've got motion, a second, further discussion? Bryce?
So without having the financials in front of us, one person's holding us from having the financials. We don't know exactly what they're spending money on. You brought up a good point about the promotional materials. We're gonna shut everything down. What all we need to do is communicate with the one person, have them cooperate with us to find out everything. We're gonna shut everything down because of that.
Well, it's for 60 days, that gives us time to have a workshop, gather all the information that we need, evaluate it, sit down with them, rework the programs we want to. And remember, in March, we've got 4 seats coming up on the EDC when council can appoint 4 new members to EDC if people want to apply. So I don't think 60 days is unreasonable. Rebecca?
I would just agree, and especially in the light of the situation, I don't wanna sound like a broken record, but looking at what needs to be evaluated and looking at the whole program possibly transitioning, and looking at the financial situation that the board is currently in, I'd like to be able to evaluate programs and work with the EDC on doing that and moving forward.
Any other comments, questions? All right, all in favor? All in favor? Jerry, Lynn, Rebecca, Bryce, opposed, and Glenn is opposed. The motion passes. All right, folks, there's not much left on our agenda but to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Rebecca, do you
I
have a
would
comment?
just be curious if there were any any further response from EDC members while we're here in this format, before moving forward to the workshop, and any input on what do you feel about what's been discussed or decided, and what do you feel about our challenges in receiving the financial information that we are requesting, and how do you feel about evaluating your programs?
Rebecca, those are questions that should have been asked prior to the motions.
We're still in the scope of our financial discussion in this agenda item.
Yeah, we haven't adjourned yet.
Tom
Was
had
that
his
for me?
hand up. Tom had his hand up. I don't know, I'm not the teacher.
Tom, did you want to speak to that?
I got a few things to say, yeah. A couple of things. There have been comments tonight that make the EDC sound like some kind of rogue agency, and I resent the hell out of that. It was proposed that I be personally removed from the EDC because of a lack of cooperation. And I've never not cooperated. And so you impugn my integrity by lumping me when you have an issue with one person
Out of
and you
order.
apply it to all.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Time
Let him
out,
go.
time out.
Let him go.
That was never said tonight.
No,
It sure as hell was.
Yes, it was.
Remove just Tom?
No, to remove 7 people because you have an issue with one person, but by implication, all 7 people all are not cooperating, so remove all 7 of them. That was the implication.
That's, okay, I understand what you're saying.
And so I take an issue with that. And the idea of making up things as we go along is nonsensical because everything is approved and we follow standards. And you brought up an example of a question I asked at the last meeting, saying, can we do this? No, we can't. Okay, then we'll do that. And I just asked a simple question for that. And to approve things that, to say that we should only do facades when we had at least 2, if not more, joint workshops where the EDC said, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? Perfect opportunity to say, we love the facades, but maybe try something else. Never came up, so we went on, and now all of a sudden to say that because we're doing all of these terrible expenditures that were never approved, even though they were. I mean, you had the opportunities to speak up, so speak up in the right forums and maybe things would be done. Now regarding access to information, I firmly believe we work for you. Whatever you need, you should have, and I totally endorse that.
Thank you. Art, do you want to say anything to that?
Yeah, I guess since we're getting nitty gritty, I'd like to address a couple of things, and then I'd like to make a very general and broad comment. Councilwoman Palmer talked about the meeting last month where we gave somebody a pass on a piece of equipment, and pieces of equipment have been mentioned several times tonight. The EDC voted 2 or 3 months ago not to do that anymore. So why are we still harping on it? You all know that. You were at the meeting when we voted not to do it anymore.
Okay.
But you keep bringing it up.
I just mentioned the meeting last
And-
This is
last
a
week.
conversation, this comment.
And you talked about the pass that we gave, and you talked about, I don't know why we give some people because they're friends and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm assuming you're talking about the pass we gave Justin Knight and Abby Boyd on the machine at Mulberry's. And we consulted with the attorney about that. And the attorney said, look, do you want to spend $10,000 in my attorney fees to try to get $6,000 back from them? Because I'm willing to do that. So what was the wise economic choice there? Do you spend $10,000 on an attorney to get $6,000 back, or do you give them a pass and say we learned a lesson and go on? But to sit there and say that we just give people passes is ill-conceived and not well thought out. Now, as a whole, I think the concept of an MDD is amazing. I brought that concept back 2 years ago after I came back from a EDC conference from TMF. It's in the minutes of meetings where I talked about MDDs. It's in emails to you and the former city manager talking about MDDs. I think the MDD is great. It gives us more variety, more things we can do. I think it's great to bring the ETJ in. That being said, I think what you're doing tonight is not going to garner very much public support for your long-term goal. Now, I understand your reasoning, and I don't fault you for it. But I'm saying you have to have a vote of the people to get an MDD. You have to have a vote of the people to get rid of the EDC. And the way you're acting tonight is not going to garner that support from the people of this town. I think an MDD is a wonderful thing. I think better learn how to work together and set personalities aside so we can all work towards the goal to make it better. Because this isn't garnering support. I had calls from 20 people today. What's going on? City council's trying to get rid of the EDC. I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. But that's already all over town. And that's the perception that people are seeing. And then people are going to hear what happened here tonight. And you're not going to get the support from the people you need the support from if we all keep acting like this. And I'm not pointing fingers at just you, but at this board as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Art.
Do you think we're gonna get flooded with applications for EDC now?
Deanna has started to raise her hand.
I did, I actually kind of want to say something too on the lines of what I am not supposed to do. I see myself as kind of the I don't have any dog in any fight. I don't care that the EDC is upset with the city council or the city council is upset with the EDC. I was hired to do a job to the best of my ability. When I first took this job over 4 years ago, it was very clear to me that transparency, that was the #1 priority, obviously. Obviously, there was a different president, and Martha said what the what the city council needs, the city council gets. There was never an issue. I like, when you mentioned, when you asked me for something in the email, and I said, you know, it would probably be best if you do an open records request, just to cover all of us. To me, what was asked Friday was not unreasonable for it to be, I mean, it's just, again, files. I've been literally called a glorified filing system. If that is the case, then just like the files here in the city, you go to the file cabinet and you look up the files that you need. I'm not trying to really upset anyone. It's getting more difficult for me to do my job, I feel. Because again, I just wanna do the right thing. It's not, again, in my opinion, that you guys are asking for anything out of the norm. I'm not sure if maybe the EDC would consider getting someone else to do my job, because, again, they're not gonna like it already that I'm sort of speaking out, but this is not about EDC matters, it's about me. So if they would like to get someone that would maybe be more inclined to tell you guys, do that. I wasn't told when I first took this job that I could not answer any questions. And again, I'm not trying to keep anything from anyone. And I apologize, but I am just doing my job as I am being told. And we might work on that about maybe not doing the job any longer, so. There.
Okay, so
One
I
last,
will work on getting,
Mayor.
Suzanne,
yo,
Jerry had his hand up.
Jerry?
Sorry. I just want to reiterate one more time that that is my number one concern, the lack of transparency from what I've seen so far. If we can't have easy access, and I know I'm rehashing what I said earlier, but I want to make it very clear, that is also one of the things that I campaigned on, because I was having a lot of difficulty in this city getting questions answered, obtaining information for various things. And to see it occur now is a big alarm for me. If I had a manager that I was allowing to, per se, control my money, and I was to ask him a question, and he didn't provide whatever information I asked for, that's when I would be doing some serious reprimanding and probably firing at that point. It wouldn't take much of a discussion. So that was the reason that I seconded the motion that I did. There's other people, other people on that council that could speak up when they see things going on, and that has not occurred by any of you. And it didn't occur when I was a citizen either, okay? We got up here and talked many times, and that's probably part of the way I got my name out there, unfortunately. Many times I got up there in front of this council, and nobody ever showed concern. Nobody ever contacted me. I contacted a couple of them, but never got any satisfaction. Once again, to see this going on now is not acceptable, and never will be, not with me.
Okay, so the motions have been made, we're done with that. We'll go to work on getting exactly what we want, using whatever language. It's just hard to make a person who doesn't understand financials to understand what you're asking for. So I'm gonna recently asked for some other things in different words, so maybe we can get exactly what we want, we'll get a workshop and get to work on this. I think that's enough for tonight. We've had input from both sides. Bryce?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Bryce makes a motion to adjourn. Go to second. Jerry second. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. 6:30. I'm adjourning the meeting.